Okay, we should be live. Peace. This is Amon Ashrenew from ashrenew.com. We back in here once again. For those who are in tune, we know that a new moon just passed about maybe 6 hours ago, because the new moon was about 12:30 p.m. West Coast, so that would have been like 3:30 East Coast. Peace, peace. What's up, Eris? What's up? What's up? So, from a Eastern perspective, the moon was in the degree of Virgo, or actually, I'm saying it backwards. Western wise, the moon was in Libra. Vedic wise, the moon was in Virgo. So we will speak about both of these perspectives and see what we can pull from these alignments. So if we start with the Western, because most people are familiar with the Western perspective, so we'll start with the West. So the moon was in Libra at the time of the new moon. Whenever we are dealing with the new moon, we know that we are dealing with a brand new currency of the moon. So now the moon is shifting phases to begin to build up energy again. Because during the full moon, all of the energy is being released. So from the full moon all the way to the black moon or the dark moon, this is energy being released. So once the new moon is in effect, now the energy begins to gather up again all the way up into the full moon. So a new moon marks when the energy of the moon begins to gather. So now the moon is absorbing energy instead of releasing energy. So when we think about what energy is being absorbed currently, the energy that is being absorbed currently by the moon is the degree of Libra. And we know whenever we're dealing with Libra, we're dealing with the scales of adjustment, right? So whenever we are dealing with the scales, this brings the idea of balance, harmony, peace, so on and so forth, as Libra is the peacemaker. From a Vedic perspective, we are looking at the degree of Virgo. And we know Virgo represents the purest. Virgo can also represent the hermit. So from an Eastern perspective, we have the energy of the moon moving into the caves of the hermit. And from a Western perspective, we have the energy of the moon moving towards adjustment of the higher planes, as Libra represents the mentalist. Libra is also a air sign. Virgo is a earth sign. So from the Western perspective, we are dealing with the element of air. From the Eastern perspective, we are dealing with the element of earth. So if we are dealing with the element of air from the Western perspective, this gives us the energy of mentalism, right? So this is all about your thought forms, excuse me. So the moon, or the subconscious mind, because the moon represents the subconscious mind and your emotional plane. Now we're dealing with emotional thoughts, or thoughts that are gathered up with emotional energy. So for this new moon, the energy that has been absorbed from a Western perspective is thought forms that are filled with emotional currency. So the energy of the new moon is bringing us to a perspective of utilizing our thought forms and charging them up with emotional currency from a Western perspective. From the Eastern perspective, because we're dealing with the earth element of Virgo, and Virgo is represented as the hermit in any tarot deck. Virgo is all about solitude, because Virgo is the purest. So Virgo more so wants to purify the energy of the earth in this instinct. So this could also represent the human body, or the physical form, or the physical reality as a whole. So purification of our physical reality, but we'll stick directly with the physical body. So purifying your body, purification of the physical vessel from a Vedic perspective, and emotionally charged thoughts from a Western perspective. So what is the difference really? Again, whenever we're dealing with the new moon, we're dealing with energy that is now being absorbed. So if we put this in different contexts, because the moon represents the high priestess in any tarot deck, and the high priestess stands guard between the light realms and the dark realms, because if we study the Kabbalah, The high priestess is the 13th path that leads us straight to Thoth, which is the entrance to the clip-off, which is the tree of death, right? So the high priestess stands between the tree of life and the tree of death. So because the high priestess is the guardian between the underworld and you can say the heavenly worlds, whenever we're dealing with emotionally charged thoughts, what are we doing it for? What are we trying to open up? This is to open up the portals or the pathways towards the darker side or the darker worlds. But of course, they feed or they respond to our emotional currency. And this is why we need to gather up that energy within our own subconscious mind so that we have something to, you can say, negotiate with. Because whenever you're dealing with darker spirits, it's like doing a business transaction. You need a form of currency. They're not just going to work with you just because you want to. You need a form of currency. So when you have an abundance of emotional currency because you have been thinking about thoughts and energizing your thoughts with this emotional currency, this attracts spirits. So the same way that blood attracts spirits or sexual fluids attract spirits, highly emotional thoughts attract spirits. But most of the time, whenever we're dealing with highly emotional thoughts, it tends to be negative, when people go through breakups or arguments, so on and so forth. But that's also a introduction into a magical currency if we utilize it properly. So if you can get yourself to a state where you can constructively build up your emotional currency with your thought forms, then it would do you very well. Now let's take it to the Vedic perspective. So now that we understand we're dealing with the high priestess, then if we take it from the Virgo perspective of the purist, purifying the physical body, what are you purifying the physical body for? What is the purpose of this? You are purifying your body so that you can work with darker energies or lighter energies. It all depends on what perspective you're coming from. So whether you want to work with darker energies or lighter energies, you must first purify your physical vessel, because the high priestess is all about purification. The moon is all about purification because the moon represents the water element, and water is all about cleansing. So cleansing of our physical body, right? So this can take on the form of yoga, being able to correct your posture, being able to correct your poise, because all of these things matter. Just having your spine straight. You want to straighten the spine. Whenever we're dealing with purification of the physical body, the physical body, the backbone or the essence of the physical body rests in your spine or the 33 vertebrae. So purification of the 33 vertebrae of the spine allows you to either work with the darker forms or the lighter forms, because this is also a form of earth currency. So we talked about currency of an emotional perspective, but we have the 4 elements or 5 elements if you want to include the spirit element. Each element is a form of currency. So if we look at the elements as forms of currency, and we know the human body or the physical vessel is a combination of all 5 or 4, we'll just strictly deal with the 4. So the physical body is a combination of all 4 of the elements. So we have 4 forms of currencies that we are constantly working with, whether we realize it or not. So these 4 forms of currency that we have access to via the physical body, these can be used to access different dimensions or different states of mind or different states of consciousness, however you choose to look at it. So for example, if we wanted to activate the water element within the body, because we know the body is mostly water. So because the body is mostly water, that's why we are always changing so much. We pretty much look different every day. Every day, every hour, every week, every minute, there's something changing. There's cells dying and cells being given new life. So life and death is happening all throughout the physical body and the waters of the physical body. If we're dealing with fire, we know that the body also has temperature. It can heat up. When we're exercising, when we're working out, we begin to sweat. So that's like activating the fire element, because you are heating up your body and it causes you to sweat. So you are producing water from the fire element. And of course, we know the air could represent the actual breath. So breathing exercise, and we already know how important breathing is. All these are forms of currency. And of course, the earth element, this is getting your spine straight. All these are forms of currency which can be utilized in more than one way. Because we know you having better posture by correcting your spine will make you a lot more healthier. You will be healthier straightening your spine. You will be healthier by breathing deeper. We will be healthier the more we allow the body to heat up and cool down. When we allow ourselves to sweat out the toxins in the body and purify ourselves. Now, when we are dealing with the mental plane, purification of the thoughts, now we're dealing with something different. Because on average, we have about 60,000 thoughts per day. Only 5% of these thoughts are creative. So out of 60,000 thoughts per day, only 5% of those thoughts are creative. Most of those thoughts are what happened yesterday or whatever trials and tribulations we're going through, basically negativity. So most of these 60,000 thoughts are negative. It's only 5% that's creative that will allow us to move forward. So what we are attempting to do is to tap into that 5% out of that 95%. So if we look at majority of the time, it's mostly negative thoughts, what you can do, what you can't do, the limitations, and it's just all this madness. Because the subconscious mind, because the moon correlates with the subconscious mind, and the subconscious mind is not the conscious mind. So we're not talking about what you're consciously thinking about. So if you ask yourself, am I consciously thinking 60,000 thoughts every day? Absolutely not. Our thinking also takes place in the subconscious mind as well as the unconscious mind. So even though we are not conscious of these 60,000 thoughts, they are still taking place. And this is the purpose of reprogramming the subconscious mind so that you can have more control over these 60,000 thoughts. Because if you are thinking on autopilot from the subconscious mind and the unconscious mind, the purpose of programming or reprogramming the subconscious and the unconscious is to make sure those 60,000 thoughts are not negative and instead are creative. So when you transfer the negative thoughts into more creative thoughts by reprogramming the subconscious mind, by purifying the body as well as the thought plane, we can understand how this can be used to our benefit. So even our passive thoughts can be used to our benefit once we correctly program the subconscious mind to be more positive versus negative. And this is the purpose of working with spirits. This is the purpose of participating with yoga and correcting the spine and using all four of these elemental currencies to correct any flaws that we may have. So any flaws we may have can be corrected if we properly utilize our emotional, our spiritual, our breathing techniques, and all of these things that are being spoken about. So whenever we are dealing with the new moon energy, again, this is energy that is being absorbed by the moon. So currently the moon is absorbing our thoughts from a Western perspective, and the moon is also absorbing or putting pressure on the physical body. So what do I mean? We already know that the moon affects us from an emotional perspective. We already know this. We already know the moon affects the tides of the water. According to Elijah Muhammad, the moon used to be a part of the earth, and it was blew up by one of the scientists, and that's why the moon has the effect it has on the physical body as well as the planet Earth. Again, whether people believe that or not is totally up to them, but the moon nonetheless has an effect on us and the earth as a whole. That can be proven. We also know that we only see one side of the moon. We don't see the other side of the moon, and I think I recently talked about this anyway. The dark side of the moon is where the magnetism comes in. It's the side of the moon that we don't see, the dark side of the moon, that is called Lilith. The dark side of the moon is what has those emotional pulls on us. So the subconscious mind is connected to the moon, as the conscious mind is connected to the sun, and the unconscious mind, you can say, is connected to Neptune. So this is why I like to integrate astrology as well as in numerology as well as the tarot, because it's all one complete science. And of course, when you add all these elements together, you got the Kabbalistic science of the tree of life and the tree of death. This is all one big form of how we can decode reality. So whenever we're going through a new moon, a full moon, the first quarter, or the third quarter, so on and so forth, each of these things represent a state of consciousness. Why? Because the moon goes through all 12 zodiac signs once every 30 days. So it takes the sun a full year to go through all 12 zodiac signs, but the moon goes through all 12 zodiac signs in 30 days. So every 30 days, the moon has that complete cycle. And we know your moon sign may even be more important than your sun sign, because your sun sign just represents your overall direction in life. Whether your moon sign is how you are going through every day. Your everyday life is more so dependent on how you feel every day and what you experience. That's more so dependent on your moon sign, because your moon affects your emotional plane. So your mood and how you feel and your emotions, that really determines what your everyday experience. So your everyday experience is more so determined by your moon sign versus your sun sign. So your overall direction in life really don't have anything to do with what you go through on a day-to-day basis. So your moon sign is very important from that perspective, and that's why we can also study not just our solar return or our birthdays, also our lunar return. You have a lunar return once every month. So once every month, when your moon hits the exact degree it was at the time of your birth, that is called a lunar return. So every month we have a different lunar return. So we basically have 12 lunar returns every year, and we have one solar return every year. However, in the West, we give more importance to the sun, but in the East, they give more importance to the moon. For this reason, because the moon is going through 12 cycles for the lunar return every year. So we have 12 different phases every year. Of course, that corresponds with the 12 zodiac signs. So once we know these things very intimately, we can understand how it affects us on a personal level. So if the moon is going through the whole zodiac every 30 days, that means we are experiencing all 12 of these dimensions every 30 days. And because we are experiencing all 12 of these dimensions every 30 days, then this is why new moons are important. This is why full moons are important. This is why all of these phases of the moon are important, because we are going through these things on a daily basis. Every day, the moon changes degrees every 2 hours. So every 2 hours, we have a different perspective. We have a different mentality. We are going through a different state of consciousness literally every 2 hours. So again, this is why the moon is more important than the sun, because it is moving a lot more faster. So even when it comes to manifestation and when it comes to witches and all these things, they were all about that moon magic. So real magic, you can say, is more closely connected with the moon, but not just the light side of the moon, also the dark side of the moon. So this is why the moon has always been more important, and it is still more important in the East, and that's why I like to integrate both sciences, so we can study the Western as well as the Eastern, and we can understand why there is a difference and how much of a difference it makes when we look at the sun versus the moon. So once again, the moon entered into the new moon in a degree of Libra from a Western perspective, and a degree of Virgo from the Eastern perspective. So once again, if we emotionally charge our thoughts, those 60,000 thoughts per day that we have, that emotional charge that we are giving towards those thoughts will seep into the subconscious mind and will seep into the unconscious mind, which represents the dark side of the moon. So if you want to program your subconscious mind as well as your unconscious mind, we have to do so with our emotional currency. If we want to reprogram the physical body, we have to do so with earth currency. Right? So either we're reprogramming our body, our stature, our poise, so on and so forth, with the earth currency, or we are reprogramming the subconscious and the unconscious with the emotional currency. So when we fill our thought forms with this emotional currency, this is how we can reprogram from the inside out. And this is also how we can correct any fault we may have from the physical being. So whatever faults we may have physically, we correct it with emotional currency, and whatever emotional faults or thinking faults we may have, we correct it with the water, or the air in this case, because the air connects us to Libra, and Libra is all about mastering your mind. Libra is all about mastering your mental, and your mental is based on those 60,000 thoughts you have per day. You have to be the master of these 60,000 thoughts. So this is why when you do mantras and when you do meditations, what you're essentially doing are slowing down your thoughts. When you are going deeper into these brainwave states, you are slowing down your thinking. And when you slow down your thinking, you have less thoughts. And when you have less thoughts, you begin to have more control over your thoughts, because it's impossible to control 60,000 thoughts per day. But if you get that 60,000 down to 40,000, 30,000, 10,000, 5,000, 10, one thought, which seems impossible. But again, if the moon goes through its whole cycle in 30 days, that means you can do this within 1 month. So if you completely dedicate yourself to this for the whole cycle of the moon, you will see once you're looking back and you're constantly updating your book of shadows. So every day you're putting more and more information into your book of shadows, updating yourself. So once you look back at what you were doing a month ago, you will be able to see how much you changed. But you must document, because of course you're not going to remember every single day, every intricate detail of every single day. And that's why we have a book of shadows, to remember the things that are most important. So whatever is most important, we have the ability to remember these things utilizing our book of shadows. And again, this is why witches was more concerned with the moon than the sun. And you can say moon magic is more powerful than solar magic, because the sun moves a lot slower. Even though the sun can be presented as a more powerful entity or a spirit, that's why we have like solar equal things of this nature. I think I'm kind of breaking up here. I think it should be good. It's kind of stuttering. Let's see. So happy you emailed the articles, essential content from the website. Yeah, I've been updating the website. I'm putting at least 2 to 3 articles out per day, because like I told y'all before, you're going to get daily content. You know what I mean? Like, so it's no more bullshit, and it's no more this is in the way, this is in the way. We're going to get daily content. So if you are a part of the website, you're going to get articles every day, and you may even get a video thrown in as well. It all depends on what the situation is. So if I give nothing else, you're going to get 2 to 3 articles per day, and it's going to be, I think today's article was about chakra magic, and I don't even know what the first article was. You know, I just type it out and I release it. So again, I just want to make sure that I'm doing as much as I can to help these. You know, this is like secretive stuff, and it can be complex when you're getting it from this person and that person and that person and that person, and they're all saying different stuff. So I just want to be a source. So whatever you need to know, you can get it from one source, so you don't go into all this confusion. So with that, if anybody has any questions, we can get it in. So peace, 305 Capricorn, peace, GC 360, peace, AK, peace, Jahari. You already know. Salute, salute. Peace 724. Peace D. Okay. Peace Donald Jones. What kind of ritual can one do before the week ends? It all depends on whether you're looking at it from the Eastern or the Western perspective, right? So I think I gave enough information to give more insight into whether you're going from the East or you're going from the West. And I also wanted to present both forms so that you can know what works the best for you. Some people may be more in tune with the Eastern moon. Some people may be more in tune with the Western moon. So you can try both sides. You can try the air element, or you can try the earth element, and you see what works the best for you. So you can then decide, okay, maybe I need to go towards the East, or maybe I need to stick with the West. So it all depends on what works best for you. The West is all about your personality. So if you're trying to enhance your personality, then you go with the Western side. The Eastern is more about the soul force. If you're trying to enhance your soul force, then you go towards the East. So it is all about what you are trying to do in your personal life and your personal situation, right? So it's not about right or wrong. It's not about which one is better, which one is worse. It's just about what perspective do you choose to work from, right? So what's up, Rail? So I just want to make sure I gave everybody a shout out. What's up, Clarissa? Peace, love, and abundance. I appreciate you. So again, you know, we're not going to be on here too long, because I just wanted to get the new moon information and a couple techniques, quick techniques, so you can root yourself in what you know works, because we don't want to be making mistakes. We don't want to be, relying on luck. Everything is mathematics. Like the sun has the same 365 days, or 366 if it's a leap year. The moon will always be going through the 12 zodiac every 30 days. All this is based in mathematics. So the more in tune we get with mathematics, the more that we will see these things playing out and working out for us. So we don't have to depend on anything else, because if the earth is mathematical, if astrology is mathematical, if numerology is mathematical, if the Kabbalah is mathematical, if all this is based in mathematics, then all we have to do is follow suit. All we have to do is follow the mathematics, and we don't have to be wishing and hoping and thinking, and maybe it'll work, maybe it doesn't. If everything is based in mathematics, just like we don't have to guess if the sun will come up, we know that the sun is coming up because it's strictly based in mathematics, and we know mathematics is the language of the universe. We don't have to guess, we don't have to speculate, and we don't have to, okay, well, is it real or is it not? So the same faith we have in astronomy, we can gain that same faith with astrology. So you can say most people will not deny astronomy. Most people will not deny astronomy. They will not deny the movements of the moon, the movements of the planets, the movements of the sun. Most people will not deny astronomy. You can still go to school and you can learn that. But when it comes to astrology, that's where the speculation comes in, because it's deemed pseudoscience. See, astronomy is not deemed pseudoscience, but astrology is deemed pseudoscience, and that happened in the 17th century with the scientific revolution, just to give a historical context. So in the 17th century, you had the scientific revolution, and that's when astrology was separated from astronomy. So astronomy was kept, but astrology was abandoned, and it became pseudoscience, and I'll tell you why. The reason it became pseudoscience is because it's based in chaos theory. Astrology is based in chaos theory. What I mean by that is you can't predict it in the sense of you can predict astronomy. So the same way we can predict, this is say the movements of the stars and the constellations, you can pretty much predict that. It's a lot harder to predict how the effects will manifest on the earthly plane. You got to go deeper into your spiritual mind versus your scientific mind. You can't use a scientific mind and decode, okay, what effect is the sun and the moon and the stars going to have on the earth. Because just because the sun may be in Aries or the moon may be in Libra, it's not going to always manifest the same way, because you have to take into account the houses. You also have to take into account the aspects. You have to take a lot of things into consideration to see how the energy will manifest, and it's always different. So the sun is not going to always be in the same house. The moon is not going to always be in the same house. And the planets are not going to always have the relationships that they have between each other. It's not going to always be the same conjunctions. It's not going to always be the same sextiles and the same triunes. All of these things have variation, and that variation is called chaos theory. So that's why, like, the average person can't predict how these energies will manifest on the earthly plane unless you study chaos theory. Because once you study chaos theory, you understand that, okay, every time this energy hits, so again, even if the moon is going through these cycles every 30 days, 12 times, those 12 manifestations will be different every single time because of chaos theory. So chaos theory makes those 12 loops, or those 12 cycles that the moon goes through every month, it will have a different effect. So the more we understand about chaos theory, then the more we understand how these things play out. However, when we go to school to learn these things, they try to push this narrative of everything has to be orderly. Everything in the world, everything in the stars is all about order, law, and order. It's hard to acknowledge that chaos, or the element of chaos, is actually a factor. So that's why when we study quantum physics and quantum mechanics, it gets really weird for people. So when we hear that the particle and the wave they can behave like each other. So particles can behave like waves, and waves can behave like particles. That completely destroys everything you learned beforehand, because if we learned about particles have a certain behavior, and waves have a certain behavior, then when you go into the quantum world, all of those fixed behaviors that we just learned in physics and everything else is null and void. So everything that we learned, everything that we felt was solid and fixed, then changes, because on a quantum level, nothing is set in stone until you observe it with your eyes. And that's what the double slit theory or the double slit experiment is all about. So the double slit experiment is, if you set in motion particles and you're not looking at it, if you're not observing it, it will have a certain effect. But if you actually watch the effect, it has a different effect. So your observation actually influences the outcome. So this bleeds into, manifestation and all the Eastern sciences, because they are more based in the chaos. They're more comfortable with the chaos. Over here in the West, we're more comfortable with order. Everything has to work in a certain way and do everything it needs to do at the same time. We want everything to be fixed, and we're not really welcoming adjustment. So again, that's why astrology fell out of favor, because you have to be comfortable with the chaos. And the more comfortable you become with the chaos, with the quantum physics and the quantum mechanics, then you begin to see reality for how it really is. It's more about chaos than order. So if you understand the chaos is more dominant than the order, then things like dark matter and dark energy, doesn't really phase you, because you can say only 4% of the universe is seen. Only 4% of the universe is seen. So that means about 96% of reality is dark matter and dark energy. So that's the majority of the universe is dark matter and dark energy. That means majority of the universe is complete chaos. The only thing that's fixed and that does not change is that 4% of the seen reality. So if the seen reality only accounts for 4% of the universe, but we want to manifest that 4% as if that is the dominant effect and not acknowledge the chaos, which is really the dominant effect, then we begin to see, like, okay, there's certain things, everything that is considered pseudoscience is based in chaos. So even if you look at a list of pseudoscience topics, they're all based in chaos, or that 96% of the universe that cannot be seen, that's based in dark matter and dark energy. So all this dark matter and dark energy, this is all the potential. This is all representing potential. So this is formlessness. This is the triple stages of darkness, right? This is the Ein Sof Sofer from the Kabbalistic teachings, the Ein Sof Sofer. So all these things have already been studied. We've already decoded all these things, but it is based in chaos. That means it is ever changing. So that's why every day is different. No 2 days are alike. No two people are exactly alike, because that is chaos theory. That is quantum mechanics. That is dark matter and dark energy. That's also how we manifest and materialize things. Everything has to come from the darkness. The light has to come from the darkness. So the more acquainted we get with the darkness, the more we can understand how these things work and get a better grasp of the universe. All right? Finally made it to the live. Thanks for all the wisdom. Been learning from you from years. Absolutely. And we're going to keep coming, because you see it's never ending. There's no beginning and there's no ending. No beginning, no ending. Does the moon affect males and females differently? Absolutely. Women are more in tune with the moon. Men are more in tune with the sun. So that masculinity that men have naturally comes from the sun, and the femininity that women have naturally comes from the moon. So women are definitely more susceptible to the moon, as their menstrual cycles are directly correlated to the moon. Then men are naturally more in tune with the sun, and that's just based on astronomy and astrology. So yes, it affects us differently, but we are all still affected by the sun and the moon and all the other planets. So the planets affect us all, but in terms of the degrees of how much it affects us, it is based on your gender. So your gender does have an effect, or it makes a difference. But again, this is what makes women more feminine, and this is what makes males more masculine, or men more masculine. So this is all based in astronomy, astrology, numerology, and the Kabbalistic sciences. So everything is going to always come back to these sciences that has already been laid down. We've already discovered it. We just have to master it and illuminate it from within. So that's why you don't ever see me pulling out books and all that, because you have to illuminate it from within. And once you illuminate it from within, you begin to see it for how it really is and not how we think it is. Right? What's up, Chocolate? Love listening to you. Finally caught alive. It's been a while. I think I want to fast again. I will contact you on the business line soon. Salute to you. So definitely, if you're looking at the Virgo perspective of the moon, this is definitely a good time to fast if you want to purify the physical vessel. So that would be the Virgo side, that would be the Vedic side. So definitely fast if you are more so connected to the Vedic side, because that will help you to purify your body. And everybody has their own form of fasting. You have a dry fast, no food, no water. Then you have the water fast, where you just drink water. You have a liquid fast, where you drink all types of liquids with no solid food. So there's different levels of fasting. So whatever is most comfortable to you, make sure that you're not pushing yourself too much, and make sure that your body has enough time to acclimate and adjust. Because again, the body is mostly water, so that means the body will always adapt and adjust to whatever we put it through. But it doesn't necessarily happen overnight. It takes at least 21 days. As I said before, it takes 21 days to develop a new habit. So if you are doing something continuously for 21 days, then your body will adjust and acclimate. So if you move from LA to New York, for example, it'll take you about 3 weeks to get acclimated. Then if you move back, it'll take you 3 weeks to get acclimated, right? Why is it that they don't talk about Ophiuchus, the 13th sign? They don't talk about Ophiuchus because it throws off the balance. We're so used to having the 12 here, 12, 12, 12, 12, right? So when you add the 13th degree, it throws off the balance. So it's mainly Western, because we're locked into a certain way of thinking, right? We're locked, we want astrology to be a certain way. We want things to work. We want things to fit. But that 13th degree, it throws that chaos into the mix. So everything that I'm speaking about, it throws that chaos into the mix. So if you apply that 13th sign, it throws the chaos into it. So it's not that the 13th sign was never acknowledged. It's more easier to decode things utilizing the 12 degrees instead of the 13th degree. And of course, 13 is also a unlucky number in the Western hemisphere, right? So when we look at, like the 13th floor, and of course the 13th tarot card of the major arcana is the energy of death. So the 13 is not really accepted over here because of the superstitions attached, Friday the 13th and all that. So whenever you see that 13, it has a negative connotation. So of course they removed the 13 because of the negative connotations. But of course over in the East, they don't have that same mentality. They have a whole different philosophy. 13 is actually a lucky number in the East, so it's more acceptable in the East. So it's not about which one is right, which one is wrong. It's really just about culture and belief system and faith, right? So that's why they don't include the 13th, because of the negative connotations that is associated with the 13th. Not because one is right or wrong, because again, you have to utilize your personal experience and your personal observation to see what's what, and is it really this or is it really that? But the moon, has 13 cycles. So that 13 does play a part. The moon has 13 cycles per year. So the moon goes through 13 cycles, and the 13 is really, really connected to the moon, right? So the 13 actually has a bigger association with the moon than it does the sun. So if you really want to get deeper into the 13, then that's going to take you directly into the sciences of the moon, right? So that 13 definitely has a bigger, and that's why the Eastern mind has a different perspective when it comes to the 13, right? Peace, what's up? Esoteric Dragon 88. What's up, Miss Libra? What's up, New Horizon? I think what's up, Bueno? Just in case I didn't say your name, so I just make sure I get everybody here. So again, unless anybody has any questions, we can check out. Because I know it's getting a little dark, so we don't have to just stay here and you look at my dark face. What's up, Ross? So again, if I help anybody, definitely make sure that you join the website astrarenew.com. Make sure you support via Cash App, AstraRenew. All right. And again, I'm gonna be here every day. You're gonna either see my face every day or hear my voice every day, and I just put a picture up. And again, so whether you're on the website, whether on the YouTube, and of course I have the YouTube memberships. So if you want to join a YouTube membership, you can. Shout out to everybody that's already a part of it. So I'm gonna have exclusive content. So I'm just doing my best to put out as much content as I can, so I can just get all this off my brain, get all this off my chest, and we can have a better overall experience in life as a whole. So with that, we're gonna check out, and I'll see y'all tomorrow. Peace. Hotep.